So welcome everyone. My name is John Bernatovich. I am the president and founder of Willery and one of the organizers for DisruptHR Columbus. Thank you so much for joining us today. First and foremost, we hope that everyone is staying safe, healthy, and patient. Our continued thoughts and prayers for those that have been affected by COVID-19 and for the countless frontline healthcare workers who are risking their lives to save so many. As we at DisruptHR Columbus adapted and adjusted to COVID-19 and the new normal, it was paramount to our speakers, sponsors, and committee members to carry on and to put on today's virtual roundtable. We recognize that it's not a replacement of our original in-person DisruptHR concept, which we know has been long awaited in Columbus based upon the enthusiasm from many of you, the collaboration with the speakers, the sellout that we had in less than a month, and we will give you an update on that here in a moment, as well as we want to tell you a little bit about the topics we're going to cover. We want to introduce our roundtable panelists who are amazing. Let me tell you, because I got to get to know them over the last few months. They've been just phenomenal partners. We will make sure that you understand who our sponsors are so we can showcase some of them. I will briefly go over the format. We'll try to keep it as close to DisruptHR as possible. And the bulk of the time will be on the roundtable collaboration between our speakers. And then we'll close it out, thank our committee members, and for those of you that are joining us. So for an update on the in-person DisruptHR event, I want to introduce Jeni Myers, the chair for DisruptHR Columbus. Jeni, take it away.
Hey guys, it's nice to see you. Well, some of you. Yeah, as John mentioned, we are still doing an in-person event. We do not know the date yet. Obviously, we're kind of just working with the state and federal government, not working with them, but following their instructions on planning this event. So we'll definitely keep you posted. If you've already been registered and you have questions, feel free to let me know. But everybody that has already registered is good to go for the in-person event. This morning, I actually woke up and John and Bridget and I were talking about how we were a little bit sad that it wasn't here. But then I look outside and it's a super shitty day. So I'm actually happy because I was praying that it wasn't going to be a crappy day. And it is. So I think it's good vibes that we dodged a bullet there. I hope you all have fun today.
All right, so let me go ahead and quickly cover the topics that we're going to discuss over the next hour plus, and then Bridget from our team and our marketing chair will introduce our panelists. So we're going to cover a wide range of topics, from the emotional impact from the stressor of COVID-19, cultural impact of furloughs and layoffs, filling in the blank things to do, leadership success stories, reopening work, what now, parental work-life harmony, which I know that for many of us has been a major challenge in all this, the impact of COVID-19 on our younger generation in the workforce, and adjusting to remote work, and a few others. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get the speakers announced. Take it away, Bridget.
All right, awesome. So our speakers will be covering these timely topics. And over the last few weeks, I've acted as the de facto producer for the video chats that John has been conducting with our speakers. And I've gotten to know them just beyond their bios that I'm going to share in a second. But we hope that you guys all get a chance to watch those video chats. I will put the link in the chat, and I think I've also shared it via the email that went out earlier today. So this is a remarkable lineup. We are so lucky and thankful that everyone is here. And so without further ado, I will get started. All right. Eric is a SHRM certified HR practitioner with nearly 20 years of talent management experience across various industries. Currently, Eric serves as a manager, human resources for Cover My Meds. He is a sought after speaker, aspiring author, and a passionate family man. Claire Coder launched her first company at 16, designed a Vera Bradley bag that sold out in 24 hours, was recognized on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, and is the founder of AmpFlow, an organization on a mission to ensure everyone has access to menstrual products. All right, Kara creates learning experiences for online and face-to-face classes for Ohio State University. She'll talk a little bit more about her experience and what's going on right now in relation to COVID-19 and Ohio State. She is very close to completing her PhD in educational studies, is the past president of the Central Ohio Association for Talent Development, and host of her own show on the training, learning, and development community. Dana has more than 25 years of experience leading teams and/or facilitating leadership skills. She is passionate about creating workplaces where people love to be. She believes we work 40 to 50 years in our lives, so let's make it great. Gabby is loving life as Director of People Operations at Amplify, an organization that measures employee engagement and partners with customers to create true organizational impact. She has 16 years of experience in human resources and loves all things related to employee engagement, leadership development, the advancement of women, and everyone's favorite topic, Disney. JENILEE Taylor is passionate about guiding individuals and leaders to their full potential. Earning her MS in management and leadership, she blends those classroom skills with real-life applications that she gained through her many years in the hospitality industry. This is where she learned to sneeze glitter and manage people. And if you can see her backdrop, you know glitter is definitely part of her brand. Megan Holland is a 15-year HR professional, millennial lover, and a personal brand enthusiast, and is coined as the unlikely HR person. Megan currently works as the Vice President of Human Resources for CR Architecture and Design, a national architecture firm based in Cincinnati. She also serves on the Ohio State SHRM Conference Committee as the Vice Chair for the 2020 conference and Chair for the 2021 State Conference. Claire PETRIE is currently the Senior Manager, Talent Acquisition at Unifrax and has been a corporate HR pro for 7 years. She is PHR and SHRM certified, on the board of BNHRA, her local SHRM chapter, and a professional development events facilitator at both her alma maters. She is also an organizer for DisruptHR in Buffalo. Michelle LEEDY serves at Trinity Health as the Director, Organizational Design, Development, and Performance Management. Michelle is passionate about creating positive, sustainable impacts through intentional leadership, strategy, and education. And Dr. Melissa describes herself as an opinionated psychologist well past Gladwell's 10,000 hours. She knows the full real stories that people carry and believe almost everyone can behave forward to their best next. And we have Zoe SWITZER, the Chief People Officer at Jeni's Splendid Ice Creams. The focus of her work is on cultivating the causes and conditions for individual, team, and organizational well-being and productivity, and meeting financial goals while serving the broader community. Thank you to all of our speakers who are here today, and we'll go on. So John, take it away to the format.
Yeah, real quick. So the virtual roundtable is going to work like this. We have 10 topics, and in the spirit of Disrupt HR, we're going to keep things moving along. We've asked our panelists to have a take, make an impact, and have fun. So we're going to cover those topics in 5 minutes. I get the unfortunate job of making sure we keep that within 5 minutes. So if you start hearing my voice or you feel that proverbial pool of whatever that thing is, let's slow down the conversation. We can keep it going maybe after 5 o'clock. So a select number of our speakers will participate in each of the topics to keep things rolling along and providing their insights and suggestions. During today's virtual roundtable, please include your comments and compliments, suggestions, and questions in the Q&A part of the Zoom and feature within the chat feature. And along the way, we're going to give a quick shout out to a few of our sponsors and showcase them throughout our time together. So if we can go to the next slide, Bridge, and just share. Again, don't forget to utilize the chat feature to provide those compliments. Next is the slide on our sponsors. So I just wanted to quickly thank the sponsors that we have. We'll be showcasing them here. Without you, we could not pull off this event. Thank you for your patience and your diligence and support with spreading the word about Disrupt HR and putting your company's financial investment into Disrupt HR. We're super excited to have it and bring it to the Columbus community. It has been long overdue. So that being said, I wanted to first showcase and spotlight Ultimate Software for being our gold sponsor. They recently merged with Kronos as one of the largest HCM technology companies with a keen focus on innovation, service, and industry disruption. Thanks to Aaron Coles for his support. A shout out to the local Columbus SHRM chapter, Haraco, for their collaboration and promotion of our event. We're also looking, Bridget, if you can keep the slides going, kiddo, sorry. We're also thankful for Niall Moeller from USI for his employee benefits, capital efficient insurance, and benefit planning expertise. Also want to thank Dawn DiMartino for trusting me to sponsor Disrupt HR. Puzzle HR is a managed HR service from coast to coast. And lastly, a personal thank you to Brian Fox from Nimble Learning Strategy. Brian is an amazing improvisation coach that combines those skills into everyday business. So now let's get started with the virtual roundtable discussion. Our first topic, I'll set the timer, is for Megan and Gabby on the adjustments to remote work. And Bridget, if you can unshare the screen, perfect. There you go.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'll just jump right in. I think remote work is very unique to each industry. Some of our industries have no problem transitioning into it. Some of you, it's a new beast, and some of you guys can't even offer it. And everyone's situation is so different and so hard. For me personally, our business is a pro being in the office, but we've had a transition to that remote work. The biggest thing that I can say to HR leaders as yourselves is just be open to listening to team members, even if you can't make changes to their requests. It's about being empathetic and being understanding, trying to give team members the why. Most of the time, they can fully understand what's happening, or at least be better equipped to the storyline of the company and the mission, and why you're either transitioning back to work like my team is, or why you can continue to offer remote work. The more opportunity you have to be empathetic and understanding to your team and their needs, I think the better served your company's culture and team will be on the return back.
That's great, Megan. Thank you. And yeah, just very similar, but to add, you know, obviously we're all enjoying the adjustment of no buttons, zippers, or you know, pants without elastic waistbands, right? Thank you. But obviously some of the adjustments that are a little more difficult and very real, Zoom fatigue. You know, we're constantly dialed in. I actually have now more meetings than ever because the passing by in the hallway type chats don't happen, right? And so more scheduled meetings. In addition, we're all experiencing this like convergence of our work selves and our home selves. And so we have, you know, like maybe a half-clothed child run in the background of a meeting, or a dog pop up and say hello. And so really, I think embracing authenticity and embracing your genuine self is very important, and being understanding for your team and other people that you work with. And I think it's also important to, we're remote working right now, everyone's lives are being disrupted. And so remembering that people, if we're working from home, or being flexible in that manner, we have to be flexible in the way of scheduling too. And so trying to do some asynchronous programming, or leaving messages, or setting a communication cadence with your team where, hey, I'm going to Slack you a message. I don't expect you to respond immediately because maybe you're having lunch with your kids. Maybe you're taking a walk outside or doing some homeschooling, right? But if I call you, it's urgent. So kind of setting those expectations and making sure you're aligned with your team and everybody at work, I think helps take a little bit of stress off.
And to piggyback on what Gabby said, because I thought the first thing she said was so interesting, is that some of us don't actually enjoy the telecommuting option because it is challenging with the disruption, the change that we're experiencing. You don't have the borders. You know, some days you're like, how did I work 15 hours and you didn't turn it off? Or for a single parents like myself, having the children in the house is not ideal while you're doing this. So we have to be flexible with our team members and, you know, be open that they're sharing more about their personal lives, their homes, seeing where they live is uniquely different as well. So there's so many new things that many companies are experiencing that. And even for the people that have worked from home forever, like a lot of our Willery partners, they said that it's been great, but the difference is now you have other people in the home with you that maybe you didn't have before.
And I can attest to that. It's actually interesting. I was just thinking, the beauty of this, way different than at Disrupt HR in person. So we have somebody over the age of 18 participating. TJ's I believe son is sitting in the back occasionally with the photobomb. So let's watch the expletive words, unless TJ, you have your earmuffs in, or for him or her, sorry, couldn't tell exactly what was back there, but I love the photobomb. So yeah, that's awesome.
No promises, John.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, we already dropped a few of those, and that's in the spirit of Disrupt, as well as a cold beverage for those of you that so partake. It is 5 o'clock somewhere. So thank you so much, Megan and Gabby, in getting things kicked off. As a remote workforce organization at Willery, we understand your pain and feel that we've been working out those kinks for 10 years. And I would say the biggest adjustments, which we'll talk about in a minute, is the fact that spouses, loved ones, children are also in this work from home responsibility. So please continue to be diligent and patient with those of you on your team. So next subject. Are you ready, JENILEE and Dr. Melissa? We're going to talk about the emotional impact from the stressors of the pandemic.
Absolutely. A question that I like to ask everyone that I meet: how are you feeling? Are you stressed? Are you worried? Are you not sleeping or eating? Or maybe you're sleeping and eating a little bit more than you'd like to. I think everyone reacts a little bit differently to times of uncertainty. For example, this morning I woke up thinking about today's event and I was excited. I was happy. And happiness really isn't something that we hear a lot about right now. But as someone who does public speaking for a living, this was a sense of normal that I was looking for. But those feelings quickly changed to guilt and shame, and I felt bad because how could I be happy? How could I allow myself to feel happy with everything that was going on? We're reminded of what's going on everywhere we turn, you know, the TV, the radio, every conversation, every event that is canceled. Every time I look in the mirror and I see all of the gray hair that my hairstylist hasn't been able to cover in the last 6 weeks, it's a reminder of what is going on, and it is suffocating. It all starts to blur together and spiral, and you can't escape it.
You know, it's funny, when I saw I was going to be speaking on this topic with JENILEE, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be Eeyore next to her. So, I don't know if I like that pairing. So
we have to remember, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be Eeyore. It's okay to feel those feelings. You have to give yourself permission. But
yes,
give yourself permission to feel happy too.
Absolutely. So I was thinking, like, so that obviously as a psychologist, the mental health impact for me is pretty intense and could take a negative balance pretty quickly. I think my feed is kind of wonky here. Can you guys understand me?
Yep.
Can you? Okay. All right, good. So there are some positive psychological things happening. So I just felt like after I was like, okay, I have to speak with JENILEE, I'm going to try to say something glittery. So I was like, okay, so my introverts are secretly and guiltily kind of loving this. So they will like get real close to the screen and say to me, oh my gosh, like this, there's suffering and there's pain, but I'm secretly kind of loving this. The investment in connections. I've got people like, oh my gosh, I've got this Zoom call now with people who I haven't talked to regularly in 20 years. And now because I feel so disconnected, I'm investing. So that's a positive psychological thing that's happening. And I think people are taking a hard look at the metrics we use to evaluate ourselves, our worth, meaning in life. The A+ gold star sticker seekers are having to like recalibrate how they do this because they have to do too much all at once. And so the folks that are educating children at home for sure have a lot on their plates. So they're recalibrating. And I think there's some value in that over the long haul for our mental health.
Absolutely. But it's just about finding those little moments. It's taking a breath, reminding yourself that whatever you are feeling in that moment is okay. And you're not in this alone. Whatever emotion you are feeling, there is someone there that you can reach out to that is feeling that same feeling, that is going through that as well. You just have to take that moment and be willing to reach out.
Absolutely. I think even for a psychologist, like I'm experiencing it too. So it's kind of new for me to be walking the walk with the folks that I am providing support for, either business owners or folks that are transitioning to working from home. So I think that as someone that works in trauma, this is an unprecedented time in terms of poking at old wounds that people have, grief, this anticipatory grief of a lot of loss. If it wasn't immediate, irrevocable loss of someone being ill, there's this anticipatory grief, which is huge. So if there's unresolved grief processes, it can be really intense for people. The boundary violations happening right now can be really intense for people. And so I think that these are going to show up in HR world in a new way. And I believe we can rise to the call. I have hope and optimism that that's the case. So I'm excited to see, because all of you folks are engaged in ways that I'm not. So I'm thrilled to see people thinking about it who are embedded within organizations.
All right, you guys are awesome. Right at 5 minutes, and I think JENILEE gets the prize for the coolest backdrop. I tried really hard being in my kitchen, but you know, that glitter, you have to put a trademark on that, JENILEE.
Thanks.
I love that JENILEE was given the psychologist advice. That was fantastic. That's the mic drop for me so far. So continuing on, Jeni, you're hot. So we're gonna let you continue on this topic of the culture impact of layoffs and furloughs, which I know, regretfully for those of us in HR, this has been a major league drag, record unemployment. We never want to ever be compared to the Great Depression, but unfortunately, in the times that we are. So JENILEE and Dana, if you wouldn't mind taking the next 5 minutes and sharing your thoughts on this important topic.
Absolutely. We all obviously have seen the effects that layoffs and furloughs take on people, but it doesn't just take a significant toll emotionally and physically and financially on the individuals being laid off or on the people who are doing the layoffs. It's also affecting the individuals who still have jobs. The remaining employees, you would think that they would just be grateful to still have a job amid this global crisis. Maybe, but we shouldn't expect this to raise productivity. Remaining team members can possibly suffer from something called guilt, survivor's guilt. There was a study done in 2018 by Leadership IQ that 74% of employees who kept their job during mass layoffs actually lowered their productivity by 25%. So what does that do to a culture of a company? You're already losing your workforce, and the people who are remaining also aren't as productive. How do you come back from that? There's emotional turmoil from everyone involved. So we have three demographics. We have those affected by layoffs from COVID-19, those delivering the decisions, the employees being laid off, and those who remain employed. So I am encouraging you to engage in self-care and mindfulness activities so you can counter those emotional effects. You can leverage technology to remain connected to your network because there are so many things beyond our control, but humanity and empathy are not those things.
Yeah, thank you, Jeni. Great words that you shared. And when I think of culture within an organization, I think about the way we do things around here and the norms within an organization. Sometimes you even have subcultures within that larger culture. So when people are accustomed to a certain way, like they know when they go into work where they're going to sit, who they're going to see, how they're going to be treated, you know, what kind of project they're working on, what account they have assigned to them, depending on what their role is, they know what to expect. And then when the world kind of upended, now they don't really know what to expect. So I think that's where part of the culture is shifting. is our new norm. And I think about it in kind of two terms, and one is the leadership group. And the leaders are having to lead differently than they've had to before. But I think in this time, with a lot of the conversations I'm having, I'm hearing that they are assessing how things are going. And there are probably things they will keep from this new world and this new experience that just came purely out of the need to innovate and the need to adapt super fast. So in some cases, productivity is going up for people who are working differently. Not in all, but in some. So I think the leadership team needs to assess. And then I think the employees are also doing some assessing, even if in their own minds they're not calling it that, because they're assessing the experience and the way they're being treated. And some are being seriously micromanaged, but then there are other people whose companies have like super stepped up and come in and done whatever needs to be done in the homes. They can work from home, bottom stuff if they needed stuff. In one case, I know a service where she lives, and she couldn't go into the office, but her hairdresser, as we all know, is closed. Her hairdresser had Wi-Fi, and she said, well, you can just come in my shop and work during the day. That's not a big deal, because they knew each other. It was a client. So people are getting like creative, and so how much future decisions and what leaders see is, okay, let's do this a little bit differently. And then I like to, I think Megan shared a little bit about we're getting a peek into each other's worlds in a real different way than we did before. When we would work together as a team at work, sometimes if somebody was, maybe a little snippy or something, kind of not like them or whatever, or not reach out to them. But now, since we're all having this shared experience in a very abnormal situation, you give each other grace a little more. So I do think there's opportunity for some relationships and kind of a work to be improved upon from what it would have been in the office.
Awesome. Thank you, Dana, for that very insightful feedback, as well as JENILEE. I really appreciate you guys. We've gotten a great start. So we're going to go to a poll question to break things up a bit. And I'm going to set a goal. We got to get 100 comments in the chat box. We're 30 there. We only need 70 more left. Let's blow that out, because I've seen a lot of thumbs up from the participants and the panelists. So please share if you hear something in particular. So now we're talking about when we first get all phases reopened, right? Where are we going first? Where's the first place you're going? See everybody typing, a lot of choices. Maybe your favorite isn't on there, so we're sorry we couldn't make the list so incredibly long that it would take forever to do the poll question. We want to keep the group engaged throughout. So, okay, we're going to a bar and restaurant. We're actually going to see people, right? I'd say having somebody come to my house has been the thing I've missed the most. And I regretfully will admit I am a huge sports fan, so sports was on the top of my list. All right, Bridget, if you don't mind switching to the next slide, I just want to recognize a couple other of our sponsors, which have been, again, paramount in the success of putting together our event. So if you can just slide through these for me, Bridget, as you go. I wanted to recognize ADP as a silver sponsor. Their Workforce Now technology has over 2.5 million daily users. That's outstanding. And it creates a very robust HCM and payroll solution. We're so appreciative to Mary Thames and her colleagues for her support of DisruptHR. Thank you to Aaron from Pradco for your support of this great event. You help develop stronger organizations through your assessments, consulting services, and women in leadership programs. A shout out to Joyce O'Daniel from Anthem. Anthem has been serving Ohio for nearly 80 years, has almost 4,000 associates working in our great state. And they have a very unique civic approach to what they do. I also wanted to give a personal thank you to Matt Banks. Matt Banks made a significant effort to get DisruptHR connected with the Untitled chapter. And I thought that was a paramount part of making this event a success and connecting it with the local community. So get your employee mojo going with iSolved. I thought that was a pretty Cute and creative slogan. So way to go, Matt. Sure you thought of that yourself. And then lastly on this section, I wanted to make sure that you're connecting with Denise Kessner from Career Path Benefit Advisors to help you set your benefit strategy and drive ROI for your benefit offering. All right, so now back into the questions, and we're only just a few minutes behind. So for those of you that are expecting us to end at 5 o'clock, I'm disrupting that idea, and we're not going to end at 5 o'clock. We're going to go a little bit past, but that is okay because I think this has been awesome. So we're now to 43 chats. Maybe I'll have to set that to 200 once we get to 100. So keep those going. So now Eric and Zoe, if you wouldn't mind providing your thoughts and insight and recommendations on the impact of COVID-19 to the younger generations in the workforce.
Yeah, well, I first want to give a shout out to my hair and makeup team that got me ready for today. They did an amazing job, if I do say so myself. I'm also going to, interestingly enough, I'm going to reference a movie from 1993 where many millennials and almost probably no Gen Zers were even born, but it's called Groundhog Day. In that movie, Bill Murray essentially wakes up and he's repeating the same day over and over and over again. And he gets frustrated, he experiments, and then, you know, he has this aha moment. Most of us, I think, are old enough to have seen that movie. So one of the things that I have discovered that has been a challenge for, you know, our younger generation within the workforce is very literally that. It's this Groundhog Day idea that every day is turning into the same exact day. And I think that as we give more context to that, we think about how our younger generation has kind of aborted the American dream of, you know, living in the suburbs, having family, white picket fence and dogs running all over the place. And they've gone to really urban living. So downtown, right? Places that offer a lot of amenities that now, you know, they cannot enjoy. And so perhaps living in smaller quarters, perhaps dealing with roommates, or even just living solo. I have had numerous conversations, you know, with a younger workforce within my organization about just how difficult of an adjustment this has been to kind of find a pattern and a routine that isn't so routine, so to speak, that being within the workforce, not the workforce, but being within a brick and mortar facility tends to offer you that variety of engagement to be able to get up, change the scenery, talk to people, and now that has all, you know, for the most part gone by the wayside. And so that's one of the challenges that I have seen. So I've tried to encourage, again, some of the employees within my workforce to be very thoughtful about kind of creating a routine that is out of the routine. What about you, Zoe? What have you kind of heard?
Hi, Eric. Thank you. You're bringing up some really interesting points about the emotional aspects of this and the resilience that's required when your normal relationships and the sort of interconnectedness that you experience with your community is so apparent to us. And we're having to find new ways to remember that we're not alone and new ways to remember that we're very interconnected. And I think that's a really important aspect of us thinking about the impact of this situation on our younger workforce. You take that piece and you add in that our younger workforce is also more likely than the more, I would say, established or further down their career workforce at being vulnerable to a job loss. And when they're vulnerable to that job loss, they're also vulnerable to the economic hardship that can come with that job loss. There might be someone who's 20 or 30 years into their career who has some sort of a nest egg built such that when that happens, they can feel more resilient or they know how to manage economic hardship because they've been around the track a few times. And our younger workforce, while they might be more, they might be very flexible and very resilient in lots of ways, they probably don't have necessarily those muscles built yet to say, oh, I can make it through this because I've seen this 10 times before, or I can make this through this because I've got 6 months of savings in my bank account because I knew I might need it. So I think, Eric, your point about the isolation that can occur and having for us to find new ways to remember how interconnected we are. And all the science shows that emotional resilience ties to relationships and knowing that you aren't alone and knowing that things go up and things go down and that as we're connected and we're not alone, that's how we can just wait, because impermanence is a real thing, and this is proving that to us in spades. So there's that piece of it. And I think we can think about the fact that so 30% of our workforce that's in the younger category 30% of our job opportunities for younger folks are possible work from home opportunities, where 55% of older person workforce opportunities are work from home opportunities. And so when we look at how the COVID-19 global health crisis is causing work from home to sort of have to happen, then those of us who have been around the track a few more times might have more of an opportunity to work from home and keep that job, put that economic hardship at bay than those younger folks, particularly those in the service industries that we all are missing and hoping get to come right back soon and get back in the saddle of things. I think we as HR people can look for ways to role model that resilience by maintaining those relationships in new ways, look for new opportunities to remind people that the ups and the downs are part of the way things go. And I think about the cloud and the silver lining of the cloud with all of this. And I know the cloud is big and very real and very difficult, but I think on the silver lining side of it, what I hope for our younger generations in the workforce is that they learn something that it took some of us a lot longer to learn, which is you don't have control over a whole lot of stuff in the first place. This is just making it really apparent to them early on. And once you learn that these types of things can come out of the blue at any time, I think you start to learn that you have control over how you handle it. You don't have to control over the situation, but you got a lot of control over how you approach it, how you handle it, and whether you take that deep breath, get in the moment. I was hearing someone here talk about anticipatory grief. And to the extent that we can, trying not to spend too much of our energy on the anticipatory stuff and really being in this moment and what can I do right this moment. And some things we can do are look at that younger generation, make sure they're telling themselves good, strong messages of resilience, looking for what choices they do have and not worrying too much about the choices they don't have to help them get through this with resilience. And even though they've had less time than some of us to learn some of those hard lessons.
Yeah, let me piggyback on a couple of things that you said. You talked about community and that.
Eric, give me 30 seconds, buddy. Right to it. All right.
Yep. So another silver lining is that the generation that we're talking about today, they have the advantage of being technology driven. So they have a muscle really that our generation and generations before us do not have, that they are more inclined to embrace technology to also be able to navigate kind of the terrain that we're in, which can actually work to their advantage and help them shine because of the aptitude for technology.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Our next topic, filling in the blank, things to do. I know many of us have had maybe a little bit more time on our hands or a lot less. So just depending upon that. So Claire, PETRIE, and Dana are going to share their insights here. So Claire, take it away.
Thanks, John. So I will start with things to do at work, but I guess working from home for most of us. So I've been really enjoying having these types of Zoom calls with my HR colleagues that I'm not getting to see every day. So we sit there and eat together over Zoom. And then we might do some of these cool icebreaker cards. So if I don't know if anyone's heard of Best Self, I got them on Amazon. But there's cool questions like, if you could, would you rather, just past experiences, things like that. So as an extrovert, I'm like living for these types of calls right now. So having those and doing some icebreakers and getting to know my team even more, even though I thought I did before. So taking advantage of that lunchtime I still have at home. The second thing, things to do, I'm spending more like conscious effort to make sure I'm recognizing my colleagues and my team as well. So I know some of us mentioned before not having that time where you're passing each other in the hall. And so I feel like I'm not exchanging as much of that like positive energy anymore. So I'm making sure I'm kind of rotating through my colleagues and thanking them and appreciating them for what they're doing and helping me with during this really hard time. And then don't forget, obviously, to ask for support for yourself. We mentioned self-care, but things to do, I will never, pass up doing a face mask or other things I can do at home. Face mask, I should say a spa face mask, not a regular one, but so things to do sometimes during a break between a meeting. If I have 10 to 15 minutes, I'll try to find something small to enjoy myself. So the next thing I will say about things to do, filling in the blank, will be on your personal time, not at work. So again, I have another one of these awesome decks. This is more for family, significant others. I just love having conversations, getting to know people and asking questions. So spending time obviously over video chat when you can with your family or your friends, playing games. I'm also a list maker. So I've encouraged some of my friends to pick up maybe some cool books like the 52 List Project. If anyone else loves that or has heard of that too, put it in the chat for me, or am I the only one that likes to make lists? But there's cool prompts in there once you make your list on how to maybe reflect on what you wrote down more or take action on it, if that's something you're, in a place to be able to do. And then obviously we can't network in person, so we're doing it online. So I'm spending that extra time outside of work to connect more with my community like we're doing here.
Yeah. Good stuff, Claire. Thank you for that. I'm going to talk a little bit about filling in the blanks for the people who maybe have been furloughed or had a job loss. And the way that people will react to this and spend this time depends on how stressed they are. And it was kind of goes to what Zoe was saying, like if some people have, they don't have to worry as much about the finances right away, they're going to react one way. And if other people need to, like right now, need to replace an income, to be able to pay the bills, they're going to react a little differently. So it depends on the finances, your support system, and also what your options are. So depending on how marketable you are. And I think for people, they need to assess where they are. And these are a lot of the conversations I've been having lately, is if you need work, be open to other options, because if you're in need of the job right now and the kind of work you do isn't readily available, you just may have to do something else. And just get okay with that. It can be a fill in the blank. It will help build resiliency. And it doesn't mean you have to do it forever, but be okay. If you're not in that situation and you have some time, maybe you're just furloughed and you've got time off, but you'll be going back, or that in a heartbeat, you could probably get another job if you're in a certain type of industry. Then I would say if you have some downtime or open opportunity time, there's a lot out there, as I'm sure all of you know, that's for free on YouTube. You can learn how to do anything. But if you really want to sharpen some skill sets and you go on to things like Coursera or edX, any of those MOOC communities, you can find some great classes. Some of them are free, some of them are $10. Some of them are pricey, depends on what you want to learn. But you could build your leadership skills. You could learn coding. You could learn social media skills, building websites. I mean, all kinds of things that you might even be able to do as a fill-in for like a gig job or something like that. I also, Claire, I love that you said about networking, because there are so many options right now. And I think it's really interesting how a lot of clubs and networking groups and business development groups have adjusted also in this time. And I could go to a networking happy hour every night if I so was inclined, because there are so many options out there, and, pick and choose what might be the right group, might be beneficial, because I think, some groups maybe are not the right group, and how you use your time so you don't get too fatigued at overworking it too. The last thing I will just say for people is, to relax. It will work out. We just don't know exactly what it's all going to look like. So sometimes in that ambiguous time, it can feel a little overwhelming, but it'll get there.
Awesome, Dana. Thank you for sharing. So we'll go now to creative and meaningful ways of giving back during this time. And we'll have Gabby and Claire. I will admit that Gabby did make all of us hungry on the video chat by referencing an app called Donut. So if there's an influx of donuts purchased in our communities in the next hour or so, we can thank Gabby for that. So Gabby, tell us about how you're giving back and your recommendations, and the same for Claire.
Yeah. So I'm happy to, and definitely, if anyone's a fan of Adam Grant, I'm sure there are, right? Definitely score pretty high in the giving category. So when this happened, look for ways to connect, and also being like a terrible extrovert and living alone, I was like, I need people. So what I've been doing is I've been offering some just free career coaching calls in the evenings and on weekends. I put it out there on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on Facebook to anyone or anyone's family member that has been impacted by this situation. And basically, I just let them own, the half hour, the hour, and a lot of them send me their resume ahead of time. So that's been kind of fun, and I've been able to network and maybe talk to some future candidates for when we start recruiting again. And just gives me an opportunity to practice my craft. And I love it. So that's been one way. And then just a couple other suggestions I have. I've only done this once, but random acts of kindness. I live in an apartment building, so went out and bought, a dozen of flowers and just put one outside at 12 random doors, something like that you can do just to bring a smile to someone's day. And then if you're a fan of Adam Grant, there's an app called Givitas that you can actually sign up for and do favors for others, or review favors, respond to them. So you can do that. In addition, LinkedIn, sign up to be an expert on the career advice or the HR advice and answer some questions for people. So that's what I got.
Love that, Gabby. I'm Claire, and we, as a company, normally manufacture FDA-approved Class 2 medical devices, tampons and pads. And so we started to think about our resources, and we actually started producing and manufacturing FDA-approved 3-ply masks to respond to the international crisis. And with that, we also launched a donation campaign where we're donating 100,000 masks to Ohio through the app Point. And Point is a local charity app. I use it just about every week to be able to explore volunteer opportunities, because right now with a lot of furloughs, you might not be able to buy things, buy flowers, buy chalk to write love messages, but you might have some extra time. And so we've really been leveraging the resource Point to both donate masks, and that's an opportunity for anybody to donate a mask. My company, AuntFlo, is matching all of the donations. And then in addition to that, also find volunteer opportunities. So that's how we've been thinking about giving back. It's really looking at the resources you have. Is it time? Is it dollars? Is it energy? Is it smiles? We all have a little bit to give.
That's awesome, Claire. I almost was the first person that started talking while they were on mute, but I quickly recognized I didn't want to be that guy. So thank you so much for sharing that insight. So we'll go into another poll question. So what has been your #1 challenge from working from home? Let's go into it, Bridget. How quickly can she get there? She got the poll up so quickly. Way to go, Bridget.
And I think next time we'll try to have some polling music. I'm going to go for about 30 seconds so everyone has a chance to see them, to vote, to add some to the chat. And we're just about up on 30 seconds, so I'm going to end the polling.
It was a tie. Doing more chores, working more. I think statistically they said on average, people were working almost up to 3 hours more per day now that they've been relocated back to home. So creating those boundaries has been incredibly important, and being diligent with your schedule so that you don't sacrifice the well-being of your family. At the same time, I know many of us are concerned about our jobs and doing the best we can to maintain them so that we can support our companies. So as we transition, I just want to really quickly do another sponsor showcase. And I will say this one is going to be the most awkward for me because it's my own company. And sometimes I try to be boastful as a marketer, but talking about myself, I think, makes me feel the most awkward. So bear with me. What I will say, as the event sponsor and the license holder of DisruptHR Columbus, we actually are the 5th company to attempt to put on this event to your great community. And I thought without any hesitation when I told Jen McGlure, we are going to do this, it is going to happen. I had absolutely no idea what was coming. And it took a pandemic to not have us have this event. We would all be together right now having such a great time in person. But instead, we're doing this because it's part of my relentless perseverance to continue to do the right thing. And our slogan and our mission at Willery is to empower people. We do that by focusing in HR and payroll, providing search, staff augmentation, as well as consulting services, and just recently launched an innovative product, which is an online HR assessment that you can do to see how you're doing in 12 core functional areas within your business. So please consider that, called How's My HR. I also want to thank Mike and his colleagues from Workday for their support of DisruptHR. Workday is an HCM and financial technology that's used by some of the most well-known brands. In addition to that, Delta Dental is the market leader in dental insurance with a mission of promoting oral health. So please connect with Jason Nikoloff to learn more. Also, thanks to Nathan Brush and HRcuity. He's the guy with the big Texas hat behind him, if you can pick him out. I thought that was awesome, for their support to drive awareness around the only technology designed specifically for employee relations and investigations management. And finally, thanks to Jonathan Wilson and his team from Paychex, as he leads the efforts in Ohio for one of the largest HR, payroll, retirement, and insurance outsourced providers in the US. So we're going to round out our topics. We've got 4 left, and we're able to stay on for those that have additional questions. Many of us will, so we'll keep this going. So the next topic is parental work and life harmony, and we're going to ask JENILEE and Megan to share their insights on this topic.
Thank you, John. And the poll results match perfectly with what I'm about to say. So it was almost as if I planted people or planned that. So thank you, audience, for your participation. Because at first, being told to work from home probably sounded like a really great change of pace for everyone. You can't be late when your commute is less than 20 feet. Your line at the coffee maker is non-existent, and you always have control of the thermostat. What is wrong with all of this? But now we're several weeks into the new arrangement, and we're probably finding that things aren't going as smoothly as we would have hoped, because we are working harder and longer. We never leave our office. Our cubicle is our living room, and our meeting room is our kitchen. Our laptop lives up to its name, and it never leaves our lap, and we're checking emails constantly, sometimes at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And we're saying yes to Zoom meetings at 8 p.m. because we're captive audiences. And what else do we have to do anyway? And not to mention the stresses of potential new coworkers. My husband, for example, is an engineer, a quiet, introverted, contemplative engineer. He is used to being in an office with other quiet engineers. And now his new coworker is a public speaker and trainer, a high energy, loves to talk, be social, collaborative coworker. And while opposites attract in relationships, not so much in cohabitation of workspaces. So what has helped us? It's deciding to take small amounts of control in a seeming uncontrollable situation. So I've tried to compartmentalize my life. I color code my schedule. All of my work to-dos are green, my personal to-dos are pink. It's a small bit of control. I set up a nook that's just for me to work in with a comfortable chair, a new lamp, and a new rug. Control. I've set alarms during the day to remind myself to breathe. Control. We've also set specific times for work and home life. And even if the kitchen does double as a meeting room, I refuse to cook dinner while on a Zoom call anymore. I did that once. Allow yourself time to be at home. And it's okay to say no to 8 p.m. meetings. Take control. And as far as that workplace cohabitation, the cozy work nook that I created, it's in a far corner of the house, so it's a little bit harder for my husband to hear me on my calls. Control. So while it's not easy for us to control what's going on outside of our own bubble, these small, deliberate actions have replaced those feelings of being overwhelmed with a sense of ease, even if it's only just a moment at a time. Take a little bit of control.
Well, so I'm going to take a different approach. As a single mother of 2, I have a 4-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. I will tell you that my coworkers are a lot more challenging, probably than an introverted husband. Not to say that each person isn't entitled to their own unique situation. I've had multiple nudity streaks on calls, interruptions during interviews, fallen sprained ankles, and the brother-sisterly love of constant bickering and fighting. I've seen carpets get makeup on them. Somehow my daughter continues to find hidden markers in makeup, and all the Christmas presents that I have strategically hidden have all come about, and including a microphone that is a karaoke microphone. So for me, I have a lot of empathy to our team members and understanding each of their situations uniquely, and trying to understand how parents are doing it. A lot of schools are very strict. A lot of schools have deadlines. And my significant other's son actually has to say the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer every morning. They have time tests that are due in. I'm lucky that my 8-year-old's in 2nd grade. He's in a gifted program and he's already passed, and we don't even have to turn in work if we don't wish to, which is exactly what we have been doing. Judge me if you choose. So for all the parents out there that answered in the poll, you know, that's been the hardest part. I feel you. You know, with the EFMLEA, we as HR professionals would have never thought a Paid Protection Act to care for the children would have ever existed. It's great that that's available. Many of us are still working, trying to balance that. And it's a challenge. And sometimes our employers don't always even understand that challenge. I know my boss often has joked, can't you just put the TV on for them? And I'm like, TV, iPad, Nintendo, coloring books, they all exist. Or the friends that say, well, why won't your daughter just keep her pants on? Again, questions I cannot answer. So it is a challenge. And for the parents out there, know that you're doing great. No one's expecting you to be the teacher that your teachers are. I have a great respect for my son's teacher now more than ever. But no one's expecting you to do that. And we do have to have understanding that our teams did not ask for this. We as employers did not ask for this. Nobody did. So having a mutual respect and understanding that people are doing their best, giving the benefit of the doubt is the biggest thing that we can do to show our support. And if somebody is not doing their all, or we can easily show that they're not really willing to put the effort in, give them their options, try to be understanding, give them what maybe they might need that they don't know exists, or take them one off, but don't spoil it for the bunch, because a lot of people are really trying to do their best. And the parent guilt that we all feel, especially as moms, no offense dads, I can't speak for the dads, I'm sure you have dad guilt too, but mom guilt is proven to be pretty significant. And I think that we have to just pat ourselves on the back and say we're doing the best we possibly can.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I'm going to echo the chat. There is no judgment whatsoever. No one is judging.
Yes. I remember Dr. Melissa shared on our video chat that the D grades are good. D grades are okay, right, Dr. Melissa?
Yeah, I have one of my homework assignments or action items is take the 59.6%, people. It's really okay. I've had people put that as a screensaver on their phone so that they remember it's just fine.
Got it. All right. Well, I know I'm a punctual guy on ending meetings, maybe not necessarily starting them. And I'm going to go back to old school. My very first Disrupt HR presentation I did was 9 minutes. And I know not all of it got on the screen because we did some chanting and some fun stuff and people were laughing. It was a good time. So we're probably going to be about 15 minutes over and setting those expectations. I know some might have to leave, but let's stay on. So next is our leadership success stories coming from Gabby, Dana, and Michelle. So take it away, Gabby.
Okay, so yeah, absolutely. Now is a time more than ever where individuals are looking towards leadership for some confidence and some calm in the storm. So just some stories that I've been hearing from my network and some things that we're doing with our organization. You might be busy, or maybe your organization has been impacted by COVID and you're doing more with less people. However, the last thing that we need to do right now is deprioritize one-on-ones. So I think it's more important than ever to make sure you're connecting with individuals. Another thing that it's a really good time to do without forcing, but elevate professional development conversations, understanding that maybe you don't have the resources to pay or to you know, for any kind of coaching or any kind of conferences, or there aren't very many conferences right now, but do ensure and challenge your team members to grow. Now is a wonderful opportunity to start developing people to step up into leadership. So if you do something, if you're making organizational changes, bringing others along, sharing with them why you're doing it, I think it's a perfect time to do that. Just another thing that we've done is we actually have been impacted by COVID, and you know, our goal throughout the whole thing was transparency, grace, kindness, respect, and then acknowledging the grief. And so we were transparent as we could be, and we've had some hard conversations. We have an all-team meeting every Monday. All of our teams have stand-ups very quickly every morning, or at least every day in some capacity, whether it's just via Slack. And we've leaned into those hard conversations and, you know, shared very openly financials for our company. So that's one thing we did. And then a lot of the success stories I'm hearing, everyone feels like our world's spiraling out of control. So encourage your leaders, and the most successful leaders right now are helping people control what they can control. And so if you're revising targets or OKRs for this quarter, you know, what can we control and what possibilities does this opportunity give us? So keeping it optimistic and encouraging them to take control in some way. That's all I've got. Trying to speed up.
Great, Gabby, that's awesome. So I'll go ahead and jump in. So what I would say from a leadership success is to be on the lookout for emerging leaders. That is the success. I think during COVID crisis, I mean, it is a change. It is a new playing field. And regardless of one's role, and when I say leaders, I'm not talking about people who have departments and direct reports, people who influence, people who have a positive impact. This crisis, despite it, we don't want to be in it, but despite it, it calls for greater self-awareness, greater awareness of others, being adaptive, dealing with ambiguity, being agile. This is experiential development like we could not design in a leader simulation, right? We can pay for this. This is unlike any other, and it's real. So people are gonna popcorn up in new ways that we might not have seen before. They're tech savvy, they're influencing in a remote way, they're being incredibly adaptive, they're being creative and innovative. So success is looking for those who naturally shine, they're bringing light into the situation, they're showing growth, and they're keeping us moving.
Thank you, Michelle. Dana.
Oh, yeah, both of those were really good. And I do think leadership is on full display right now. And some organizations are going to thrive and, you know, are not going to make it. And I kind of referenced it a little bit earlier, but I wanted to maybe take a little different spin and talk about a couple of ways we have seen leadership really being displayed kind of publicly. And that Battelle, and many of you maybe heard what Battelle did in 9 days. One of their employees came to them with an idea that said, hey, I think that we've got the right kind of machine that can clean the PPE, and that way it can help with the shortage. And in 9 days, they turned that around. And what I loved about the story is that when the employee took it to the leader didn't say, oh, that sounds like a lot of work, or we're going to have to work with the authorities to make that happen, or, you know, think all the reasons why we can't do it. What they said was, great idea, let's do it. And they made it happen. And I think that's great leadership. Another local company, Honda, their employees during the shutdown. And so I think kind of what I referenced earlier about how employees are thinking about how they're treated, Honda's really showing their culture and how they care for their employees. Like you know, someone said just a moment ago that no one asked for this, and it's not something anybody planned for, but they did that. They've donated a ton of money to food banks. They started making the shields, you know, so I say yay for Honda. And then there were a lot of organizations where we saw CEOs take pay cuts or say, from this point on forward, I won't take a check the rest of the year, and donate their bonuses. And those were places like Columbia Sportswear, Delta Airlines, the Marriott. I think when you see companies doing those kinds of things, it speaks to who they are. And it would have been just as, you know, easy for those CEOs to, you know, kind of blame it on the situation and just go on and take their own money, but they wanted to help their people in this time. And I think that's great leadership. So I love that so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. We had a reference to popcorn in that. So popcorn and donuts for dinner for everyone. We've got 10 minutes left. The crowd has been somewhat dissipating, but we are recording this thanks to Bridget and our crack team on the marketing side. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to finish off the topics with hiring and changing jobs during COVID-19. We'll have Kara and Claire PETRIE do that, and then we'll end with reopening work. What now? We'll have Zoe start that out. Maybe the panel can all chime in as we see fit. And then we'll give ourselves a big round of applause because we've had nothing but great praise throughout today's video roundtable. So Kara and Claire, please take it away.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. And how is this for a disruption? I am making the decision to walk away from my job and go to another position in the middle of COVID. So I wanted to kind of just share a little bit about my experience and then also some different things you may want to consider if you're also going through it. This pandemic for me has really reminded me that there's no such thing as a stable job. And I'm sharing this because I know that there are folks out there that maybe have lost their jobs and maybe you're looking for an employment. So I want to share something with you that kind of popped up during all of this interviewing. And you might want to consider, if you're interviewing currently, ask the company about their long-term goals and their financial health. So I actually had an interview with a hiring manager that straight up told me right out of the gate when we first had our conversation that if the organization doesn't bring in another dollar throughout this pandemic, that they would be okay for 3 years at their current capacity. And that was really comforting for me to hear. And then it's something I also didn't think about asking about. So if you are currently interviewing, that may be a question that you want to bring up if you're looking for another job. Now, Dana spoke about this just a minute ago, but let's say that you're currently employed and there's some turmoil going on. You may be in a position where you're asked, to take a pay cut, a vacation, unpaid time off. I encourage you, if you are in that position, to actually take a look and see what the leadership team is doing. And if that leadership team is not doing the same, then I would definitely argue that that team is probably not being leaders. And you may want to consider, is that a company you want to continue to be a part of? And finally, if you are in the position where you're interviewing and you haven't heard anything back, follow up. And you definitely have the right to know. And I challenge to all the HR professionals out there, raise the bar on how hiring is typically done. Reach out to those folks who have applied. Even if you don't have any additional news, just be a good human and let them know that you're thinking about them because where you are, you're representing that organization. And even if that person doesn't get a job at your organization, they're going to remember the way that they were treated. And I think kindness, even if you can't offer them a job, really does make a big impact on that particular person. And again, leaves a better reputation of your organization.
Way to go, Kara. Congrats. And thanks for being so transparent and open with us. So, all right, Claire, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I was going to start off with the congrats too. There's so many good wishes coming your way in the chat. So some of you know showing up on LinkedIn and Twitter is one of my passions. So when it comes to the job search right now, I love to tell people if there are specific companies that interest you or that you see are hiring, but they don't have a specific role, maybe that's the best fit for you, to go to their specific website and see if you can join their talent network or sign up for those job alerts. I think a lot of people that I hear sign up for Indeed job alerts or LinkedIn job alerts, and there can be a few hour lag sometimes with those. So I always remind people, go directly to that company's website. Obviously, you'll learn a lot about them while you're there as well, but see if you can get in touch kind of with them directly as opposed to some of those other boards. Sometimes those are really helpful too, but to try to maybe get there a little bit sooner. And I know we brought up networking earlier, but in a different sense, not just doing these types of events, but a lot of folks in my network I've been seeing, including myself, are highlighting other people in their networks. And when I see those posts, I jump right on them and I connect with that person that the other person I know is trying to introduce everybody to. And I'm participating in Twitter chats and other groups on LinkedIn and things like that. So if you're job searching, consider those other avenues as well. I know you might be inclined to just keep re-looking at your resume or reformatting it or changing it. But I always say, once you feel like it represents you well, leave it alone and spend your time on other value-added activities, which now I feel is going to be Twitter and LinkedIn and these online networking events.
Yeah, if I can piggyback on that, Claire, that's actually how I found my positions. I did not apply for any of these. All I did is I turned my little light on, as I say, on LinkedIn, letting them know that I was open to talking to recruiters, and they came to me. So definitely can speak to that being a valuable asset in your job search.
Awesome. And if you didn't know it, Claire PETRIE is famous on Twitter, just in case Jamie dropped that for any, because you don't follow her on Twitter, make sure that you do. I know I do, and I've learned a ton. So thanks, Claire and Kara. So last but not least, I know for many of us, we're in the state of Ohio. I know I saw somebody was joining from California, and with the governor's order, and I know Claire's in New York and Gabby's in Indiana. We're reopening work tomorrow officially, May 1st, for elective surgeries to take place, and then more of that happens on May 4th and May 12th. So Zoe, do you mind sharing now what that work is reopening? And if the other panelists want to go off of mute and share your insights as we go into this, we'll kind of close it out and give ourselves a huge round of applause at the end, because this was a ton of fun.
Yes, thanks, John. I would love to give you my thoughts on this. I have 5 of them. So when I think about us moving into the reopening phase of this, I think the first thing I want to say is I think of 3 inputs as we try to figure out a path forward. We need our government guidance. We're all getting that. Whatever state you're in, your government is having an opinion, as they need to, about what this should look like. So be knowledgeable, be preparing, be soaking in all of that. So government guidance is part 1. Be grounded in sanity and common sense. Like, this is such a good time for just looking at what is, looking at it directly, staring difficult realities in the face head on, and thinking about what makes sense for you and your workforce and your family, and making a rule set and a decision set, knowing this has never been a decision set or a rule set that's ever needed to be made before, and knowing that that's what leadership courage is all about, and that this is an opportunity for us to flex those leadership courage muscles. So government guidance, be grounded in common sense and sanity, and have your leadership courage. So that's my tip number 1 for reopening. Tip number 2 is disruption is an incredible force for causing us to have to reevaluate. There is a silver lining there to that. So welcome this opportunity to reevaluate everything we're doing, whether it's what results we're after in our organization, what processes we use to get those results, how we maintain healthy relationships in our organization. We've just had the world give us what we can view as a little bit of a gift. And I say that knowing that there are also very, very profoundly difficult things about this. So please don't think when I say that there's a gift aspect of this that I'm minimizing any of those difficulties. I'm not. But if you have to look at the silver lining, we've just cracked wide open a whole lot of longstanding patterns. Take advantage of that. Reevaluate your life. Reevaluate the results you're after, the ways you go after it, and the relationships you're maintaining while you're going after it. And look at whether or not you want to make some changes. Now's a great time for that. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, don't use old ideas of what success looks like to gauge your success from this point forward. So today at lunch, I'm sitting there thinking, I should be working, but I'm helping my kid with a book report. And all of a sudden I thought to myself, you are seeing this all wrong. You're successful right this second because you're going to work in a minute, but you're helping your kid with a book report. And maybe a year from now, I won't get the chance on a Thursday at noon to help my kid with a book report. So my old measures of what success looked like was work, 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 and then at 5 p.m. start helping my kids. Throw it out the window. Success is now something totally different, and let's be really open to completely recreating what our mental model of what that is. The last thing I want to tell you is create feedback loops with your people at every level. We each have a very important perspective, but it's so small really in the scheme of things. So have rapid informal feedback loops as we move forward to find out if what we're saying we should do and these rule sets we're creating as leaders are actually working. You know, we run scoop shops across the country. What does Zoe in some place in Columbus in an office know about what's really happening for my 23-year-old shopkeeper who's dealing with really difficult realities as they try to figure out what scooping ice cream looks like for the public in this new world? I need to be out there. I need to have informal ways for them to be talking to me so I can put myself in their shoes quickly, informally. And somebody else talked about the benefit of having a culture where if somebody has a new idea, the response to that is really open and hoping to learn from that and run with it. Like, there's nothing better right now to deal with this situation than to have informal, rapid feedback loops at every level of the organization so we can keep learning from each other and keep course correcting as we go.
Fantastic, Zoe. Very well organized and profound, and I know you got a ton of love on the chat there. So anyone else have anything to share for those that are participating or will watch the recording as we re-enter work?
I'd just like to jump in since I've been in the unique position of having a one-on-one conversation with all of our company team members over the last day. And what I've learned is, not everybody is in favor of the decision that we are going to return to work, because we could still continue to work remotely in some cases. And what I've come to find, depending on your organization and your culture, is that supporting some of the decisions is always going to have its challenges that, that I've told. I think it's the empathy to the team members to understand that all businesses are going to be at a spectrum. Some businesses are saying they're not going to even address it for months or until they know more. Some are looking at the 15th of May. Some are already in work. There's a spectrum. And what I've learned that helped to share is, and I think somebody else had mentioned it, is telling the team members, let's talk about what we can control. In this situation, I can control making sure that we do all the safety measurements to make sure that our work environment is safe for you, and you know what safety is going to look like going into the office. And then also, I know what all options are available to you, whether it's leave of absence, EFMLEA, PTO, things of that nature, to make you more comfortable. And so I think that depending on your organization, every culture is different. Every leadership team is going to have a different perspective, that not all of them are going to say, yeah, let's all stay at home until this goes, or it's working really well for our business model, because it doesn't always work well for every business model. That you do have to tell team members their opinion matters, and they do have the right to feel that, especially now, our team members are more opinionated than they ever were before, because jobs, 2 months ago were plentiful, and we wanted to hear from them, and we wanted them to feel valued and appreciated. And now we're making decisions that may or may not be popular, depending on your company and what the ask is. And so to me, it's about saying, you have every right to have that opinion. Let's talk about what your options are, what we can control. If we're going to be going back to work, here's how we're going to do it safely. Here's what the options are that we're going to give to you. And I do hear you and appreciate what you're saying. And I found with my team members, they just appreciated being heard and understanding that there are options available to them. And they do have the right to say, I don't like this. Okay, completely understand that and respect that. But I have some team members that are like, great, can I go back full-time tomorrow? And so everyone's going to have a different thought and feeling. And so it's just about taking that personalized approach.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Anyone else? All right. That said, I will end with two things. Number one, I want to thank the committee members who are helping to put on Disrupt HR Columbus. If this was not a validation that this is going to be an amazing event with all the profound input, the great dialogue that was shared, the insight that all of you had, the facts, the data, the real life personal stories that all of us were able to share, it is a prelude to what will come. We will make this happen. We will get in person. We will return to normal. It will be different, but we will make it happen. But we'll do it under the guidance of our state, local, and federal guidelines, and making sure that we can aggregate a large group of people together to celebrate human resources. Now, that being said, I want to end with this. I am a huge sports fan. I miss the roar of the crowd. We have about 25 people on the Zoom. Bridget, if you could please take everyone off of mute, or if you're on mute, I would like to give us all a round of applause for doing such a great time and doing this together. I miss that tremendously. So Bridget.
You've asked me to do something I don't actually know how to do.
Take the screen down though. Hold on. Stop sharing the screen. Stop sharing the screen. Let's see if we can do it. All right. 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Wow. God, woohoos. I'm terrible at woohoos. Brian, you nailed the woohoo. Of course.
Yes!
Yeah.
Did it! Awesome!
Yes. That's the improv guy. He can do it. He's a professional. Amazing job, guys. That was awesome. Really, really well done. Thank you for the fellowship and the time and all the smiling faces. And stay safe, healthy, and patient. And we'll continue to stay in touch with you as we continue on actually doing this event. But you guys far exceeded my expectations. My sincere thanks.